Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Make Mine Mayday, the show all about Spider-Girl and her world. Before we get started, I want to mention off the top our patrons at patreon.com/SpyDude Radio Network, or SpyDude Network, excuse me. Vickman, Scott, Greg, Jurgen, Phoenician, Kale, Georgia, and Cindy. Thank you guys for your contributions on our Patreon page. Thank you for all the things you do. Even if you are over there, you can check out all the fine stuff, see what all the fuss is about. We got some more exciting stuff coming very soon on the Patreon page. But of course, we want to also, if you're going to go to the Patreon page, go to spidey-dude.com and makeminemayday.com. Check out all the information. We're going to have some more audio editions of the show dropping probably this weekend. Sunday, I think is my guess as of when this is being recorded. So check it out. Also follow us on our social medias, such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. It's a big episode that we're going to be covering today. And of course, I am Zach Joyner, your friendly neighborhood webmaster. Hello. And we got Kelly.
Hello. We are switched than where we normally are.
Oh, I can do this. Hang on.
There we go. All
right.
All right.
So,
hello.
Yeah, she's always to my right, which makes sense because, like, the way that my camera is angled, it seems like I'm looking at you, but I'm not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an exciting episode today. We already got some comments in the chat. We got SoFlo says hello, Kelly and Zach. Fitty, what's up, Fitty?
Hi.
And Minkman says hello there. Thanks, guys,
Hello.
Standard disclaimer that I usually make on all the episodes. This is obviously live streamed, and as such, we're going to make some references to some live comments. If you're listening to the audio edition, do want to apologize in advance for you guys. Be sure to check us out on youtube.com/SpideyDude Radio Network. Give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. We're almost to 150 subscribers right now. So share it with a friend. So what are we covering this episode, Kelly?
We are covering Here Comes Carnage, aka the 4-issue storyline that features Carnage in the MC2 and the ramifications of what happens when our hero, our girl, has to fight one of the most deadliest foes in not only Spider-Man history but Marvel history.
Yes, it's a very much a paradigm shift. We talked about this a little bit. Was a couple episodes ago when we were talking about how seismic shifts are beginning to happen, especially in this era with Amazing Spider-Girl. So this is definitely an episode that is very. It's an important episode, and you talked about this last time too, because this was the first time in a long time that a lot of people saw this book in trade, an actual trade, not digest form. This
was very much like, I remember seeing this at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Media Play, so Suncoast, and I definitely remember it because it was one of the very, so the thing is, so the comic book store at Universal Studios in Islands of Adventure generally gets books about 6 months late. This graphic novel was sitting on the shelves up until about 2012.
Yeah.
So it was in that store, and they were selling it pretty decently. So the thing is that there was enough stock that was made and published of this graphic novel that generally most of the people that started reading it towards the end here, this is their first story. Or the people that only read it in trades, this is probably the first trade that they received that wasn't the little mini books, the little manga shaped books. And so that's kind of where this is such an important story, just because it was something that mass market thought would easily sell, probably mostly due to Carnage. Again, it's still one of those very much well circulated stories, I'll put it that way. And so it's a very important story in that regard, because it's a lot of fans' first story.
Yes, it is very much so, and we got some familiar names on the letters pages tonight too. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, along,
Uh,
along with some broken promises.
Actually, was certain somebody. Tom, a
There's
bone
some,
to pick with
there's
you,
some broken promises in those letters pages.
Yes. But and now, if you're reading the trade, I don't think they're in the trades. I think they're in the Are they in the digital versions?
They are. The letters pages for all of Amazing are actually in Marvel Unlimited.
So, if you're reading on Marvel Unlimited, it's not something that we have to, you have to go find the floppies. You can actually read it on Marvel Unlimited, which is really cool.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's so okay.
You're flustered because we're gonna start a war, I'm sure. Just by saying what happened here.
Oh yes, but these familiar names are like tied directly not only to the show but to the Spidey Radio Network. So
and also people we've had on the show before, our supporters, our friends, fellow co-hosts. It's people you can see on this channel.
Exactly. So be sure to go through and look at the Make My Mayday playlist that this will be added to after we get done recording it. So do we want there's really not a lot of news. I didn't see anything Spider-Verse related.
In the land of Edge of Spider-Verse being out, no news is good news. Because if anybody read issue 2 and knows what happened to Annie, no news is good news.
You could even say it's scary for Annie. Sorry.
It is scary for Annie, but it's a whole other situation. We will deal with it later.
Trust Joe. There will be some debates that will be occurring very soon. I don't
think it's going to be a debate. I think everyone's going to agree with me.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it's another discussion for another time because it does not directly relate to Mayday. And ultimately, do we really want to depress ourselves before we go into this? Because there's a lot of horror and terror and crazy elements in this story and these issues. And I'd much rather focus our suspense and disgust in more positive ways. Obviously, there's nothing really disgusting about the story. Just there's some really horrific, gory things that happen in these issues. So.
This is probably the most adult.
Oh yeah, there's nothing. It's still fairly family friendly,
right.
But it's obviously still there is no punches pulled on showing how deadly Carnage is without actually murdering somebody.
And it's funny because a lot of us that grew up in the 90s remember Carnage from the 90s show and all the mental gymnastics you had to jump through to bring Carnage to the screen. Yeah. Speaking of, hello, Walter. Good buddy Walter, who wants to troll me because it's Walter and he loves to troll me specifically. So Walter is an old friend of the site and of the show. He was on an episode of CSC. He's currently fighting a cancer battle, so keep fighting there, buddy.
Yes.
Glad that you're a part of this particular.
Ooh, wait. Yeah, I'm glad you are a part of this particular episode. But hopefully nothing upsets you. But also, I wish you nothing but the best and hope you can kick cancer's ass. I should be allowed my one cuss word here.
Hey, listen, fine. Just, don't be like Neil and randomly drop an F-bomb all the time like he does on Spidey Experience.
I wait to be paywalled for that.
See, that makes sense, Kelly.
Forgive Neil, for he does not know.
Forgive Neil in his youth.
Yeah.
I once was him on Space. I was the one that opened the book of the F-bombs. It was the, to be fair, it was the deal with the devil that caused that to happen. So,
Yeah, well, also a fair reaction. All right. But yeah, so since there really is no news right now, we can go into history, which I will let you talk about. I think the only thing I wanted to bring up was just there is a mention of Homecoming in these issues, and there is a story that correlates with Homecoming as a written story, but we are not going to touch on that until after we finish the comic reviews, because it's going to be in an episode with other media. So kind of where we'll go through it, and we'll also talk about video games and different things, just because it is basically, it really is other media. It's not a comic itself.
yeah, and so thanks to Frogoat, we'll be able to do that because he has it all
Thank
open.
you, Frogoat. Yeah, everybody go to Frogoat's blog spot or spot. Blog spot. Splot.
I mean, he just plots a lot of MC2 stuff.
Yeah, and so
much. It really is a great read.
Richard. There's a guy that's doing a whole retrospective on MC2 as well.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out.
Two, yeah. So like, if you guys want to super deep dive into MC2 lore and history, and really like just go through that whole show hole, like definitely reach out to their blog spots.
Yeah, and the thing is, like with Frogoat, he tries to bring the stuff from the 616 like prior to ASM 441.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, as we've talked about on the show.
Yeah, sometimes it does work, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it can be a bit of a stretch, but I appreciate him for doing his best to make sure that it does tie in. And it does tie in very well for most of it.
Yeah.
At a certain point, everything jumps off the deep end.
Well, hello, Mr. Comics.
Hi. Right. But yeah, so what is the history?
So this particular era, I remember when this came out, or when this was announced, they were kind of trying to keep things a secret, especially like in the early solicitations with like the first 2 issues. Or the first 3 issues, because like they even like blacked out the Carnage head on the cover, so that way people didn't really know. So that was something that was going on. We kind of were seeing a lot of this was definitely them Marvel saying, okay, we bring in Carnage, it's going to boost sales, and we're getting towards the end of the first year with Amazing Spider-Girl, and so we're pretty confident at this point, but we're still getting things like Fantastic Five and American Dream, but the momentum was starting to level off a little bit. You had the big push early on with Amazing Spider-Girl, and at this point, things had kind of settled in. Again, the sales numbers at the time were higher than they were with with the first volume. So even though they weren't doing what everybody expected to, which in the direct market, everybody expects it in 6 months, you're going to see a retraction. Basically, you're going to see the sales drop. The sales just kept being very consistent. So we still had a lot of support, like specifically from Quesada. When he was asked about it, he always spoke very glowingly about Spider-Girl at this time. So this is definitely one of those things where they're like, okay, now we're going to put it in. We're going to do like this big event. And that's kind of what the story has become. So that is the history. And I will continue doing deep dives. Thank you to the Internet Archive for archiving the Spider-Girl message board for me. So, I don't. Anyway, but yeah, that is the history behind the scenes. Again, at this time, things were on a good footing. The digests were still being published. We hadn't heard any bad news on that front just yet. Yeah. Obviously, we'll hear that later. But
yeah.
Anyway, we'll get to that when it's the appropriate time. But I'm going to be doing the first 2 recaps, and then Kelly's going to do the last 2 recaps. So
normally I let you have the Peter-centric issues, but I couldn't help myself. I wanted this one.
Listen,
I wanted 11.
you, and it's funny because there's, of what's in the letters page of 11.
Yeah, it's really. I should have let you have it if I had thought about it.
No, but you are driving the bus, and I am just you are guiding the bus, and I'm just the bus driver. That's all I am. So, whatever Kelly wants, I will do my best to make sure Kelly gets.
Can't have that power.
Well, I mean, this show wouldn't exist without you. Just saying. So, we are on Amazing Spider-Girl 9. It says MMM9 on our notes, and I just realized that, and I'm like, oh.
I shorthanded almost everything when I was typing in the structure, so we had it in time.
All right, so this cover date is August of 2007, June 13th, 2007. The title of the issue is Specimen 297. There's a lot of sevens in that particular sentence.
It is.
Our issue opens in Brooklyn with Maria Hill visiting very special Agent Whedon, who is supervising his super team of Kane, Mr. Abnormal, Earthshaker, and Kilowatt. Hill says that she's not really that impressed, but also that she has a mission that she's demanding they take. Kane isn't quite sure if the team is going to be ready to roll. Obviously, we have some new recruits and some people that weren't previously part of the team. And while they're having this conversation, Kane is they're doing a big sparring match, kind of just getting themselves ready to keep themselves fresh. They're at their amusement park headquarters in Brooklyn, New York.
Can I interject for a second? I do believe who we see are also who helped the last Planet Standing.
That's right. Because, obviously Brenda and Normie aren't involved and stuff like that too. So from the end of last volume. So
your honeymoon took like a year.
Well, I mean, you've got Oscorp money, so why not?
Well, we'll find out what they were really doing, which is also awkward on their honeymoon, but we'll get there.
That's more red flags for that relationship.
It really is.
So, Kane suggests that he brings in backup. And the way it's kind of written, we're kind of led to assume it maybe May. But on the next page, we see Mayday swinging in our splash page. She is super excited because this is obviously fresh off the heels of her mom accepting that she is going to be Spider-Girl. Feels like she's floating on cloud 9. She's getting dressed on the rooftop and getting on her school sweatshirt. She arrives, obviously, at school when she runs into Davida, Courtney, and Heather. Davida is trying to convince Courtney not to go see Moose, who is still with his father at the hospital, while Heather is trying to encourage. But Courtney still insists that her and Moose are still together, even though Davida's like, they're not even together. And so there's been this question on, are they still together? Or are they not? Since Moose obviously moved to New Jersey. So meanwhile, back in Manhattan, Kane has found his backup. It is not Spider-Girl, but it's in fact Dark Devil. He remarks that the specimen that they are supposed to be taking care of is supposed to go through Mayday's turf. Kane insists that he doesn't want to get Mayday involved. Meanwhile, back at school, we learn that Moose and Brad have been talking since he left, and he happened to offhandedly mention to Courtney that Moose would be at the medical center, which is the reason that Courtney is like feeling like she needs to go see him. Jimmy is worried about this whole situation. And kind of confides that in May. We cut over to Forest Hills with Peter and MJ with little Benji, where they're discussing if MJ is having second thoughts about the situation, not citation. I don't know why I wrote citation. Situation of Mayday resuming her webs when the phone rings and MJ has been offered a new job role to join the staff at Midtown. We then cut to Kennedy Airport, where the team of Abnormal, Earthshaker, Kilowatt, and Kane is loading up, while Dark Devil is up in the rooftops, hiding in the shadows, doing his best Clone Saga impression. Meanwhile, back at Midtown, Mayday is talking with Simone, who thinks it's weird that Courtney snuck out of school to go find Moose, something that's very, very obviously not a regular occurrence with Courtney. Wes tries to talk to May, saying that, hey, it looks like you've kind of got the weight of the world off your shoulders. But then he's cut off by Gene, who then uses Wes's line on May, which causes May to kind of perk up and say, oh, thank you for noticing. Good job, Gene. You're being a jerk even now. Courtney shows up and sees that showed up to the hospital when sees that Moose is with another girl. Meanwhile, Earthshaker is with Kane in the car, where Shaker is trying to learn more about Kane. Asking how long he's been with Whedon, and if anybody's ever tried to leave. And Kane, not so subtly, reminds Earthshaker that the last time somebody tried to leave, they were put in intensive care, and that he wouldn't necessarily give him the same courtesy. So this is happening. They're driving by literally just as May is walking up to the hospital when she suddenly senses danger. Her spider sense is going berserk. A team is under the street taking control of the traffic lights, and Kane realizes that this particular tactic means that they're under attack. Killer Watt and Abnormal have been placed in the back when the attack is starting. Dark Devil shows up, and the team is going after something called the Game Ball. Mr. Abnormal is not happy, as no one steals from me, or not me, Mr. Abnormal, as you know. They give chase, and both are quickly dispatched underneath the underground, and it with Killer Watt being kind of sunk in with the rubble falling in, and Abnormal getting hit with like a taser type device. But just as they think the tunnel is secure, that's when Mayday shows up. Mayday continues the fight when it's revealed that Contessa Valentina Allegro de Fontaine is in charge, fresh off of her appearances in Black Widow and Falcon the Winter Soldier. Actually, not that one, but yeah. In the fight, during the fight between Mayday and the team, she's trying to, figure out what's going on. The game ball has been damaged, and it's not good. For inside this game ball, this little spherical object, lays something sinister. In nature, this slithers into the night and finds an unsuspecting Midtown High student, and that student becomes Carnage. May tries to play hero and then leaves. Davida is trying to keep May from running. Oh, wait, that is for the next issue. I don't know why it was in this one, so sorry about that. Did I miss a page? I think I missed a page. Let me double check. Oh no!
No, you didn't. It is in this issue. It's basically because you're missing the fact that the Carnage, the host, thinks that May can help him, and that's who he's looking for. Of course, nobody knows why. And she's trying to. Originally, she's trying to run off, but she actually gets a phone call. That might be the beginning of the next.
That's in the next issue. Yeah. So this issue, we see the Carnage is slithering, the symbiote is slithering onto an unsuspecting Carnage student, and the final.
There we go. Yeah.
Is the big old splash page of Carnage.
Yes.
I think this is the first time that Ron drew Carnage. So. It is a little fun fact.
I don't know.
So
wait, it is? Like, is it?
I really think so, because he didn't draw it in the 90s, I don't think.
But, I mean, maybe not officially for Marvel, but like, I can't imagine somebody didn't ask him for a commission.
Well, I meant like in a comic. I'm sure somebody probably asked him about that. I meant technically in a comic that was published.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, if you have not followed Ron Friends on Facebook, it is a wealth and treasure trove of information. So
also just an awesome person to follow on Facebook.
Yes, and who sometimes will sneak up on and listen to the show live.
Kind of like Beetlejuice, but like a lot more fun.
Minus like the Michael Keatonisms and the craziness that is Beetlejuice. It's crazy for us.
It's not evil. Well, yeah, it's mind blowing for us, but that's because it's like a rock star. So
exactly. Yeah. Though I did laugh. So Tom DeFalco posted last night that he's going to be on Crawl Space for a 50th anniversary celebration, and him and Ron Friends was like, "Who are you?" And then Howard Mackey immediately right after that was, "You have friends."
Aw.
So with friends like that, so it may end up becoming the roast of Tom DeFalco, which why
I
Tom is such a sweet man. I don't
yeah,
understand.
yes.
Why
But
wouldn't
I'm
you?
also just like Brad's gonna have his hands full. I don't know what he's gonna do.
That yeah, from what you were telling me before we went on air,
Oh
that
yeah, I'm not. None of that's privy.
yeah,
Y'all have to go watch that episode or listen in when it's on air. I believe it's going to be August 31st.
yeah.
So yeah, no,
Oh,
no possible spoilers here, but just saying, I'm telling you, Brad is going to have his hands full, and I mean it.
there'll be a lot of Benny Hill music. I foresee a classic Spider-Man crawl space bloopers episode from that.
I just feel like because Brad's going to be so starstruck that like it's going to be crazy. It's going to be a good crazy. It's going to be fun.
Listen, if everything comes to fruition that what we were talking about, what you were telling me earlier, like I am so excited for Brad and the team. So definitely, and go celebrate Tom freaking DeFalco.
Yeah.
I mean, he wrote all these issues. He is a kind-hearted human being who has just been so gracious to not only me but Kelly and anybody that's ever interacted with him on the internet. And I protect Tom DeFalco. I cannot believe it's been 50 years since he started in the business too. It's doesn't seem like it's been that long. So
I mean, we're reading 15-year-old issues. I was 16.
I was 19. Yeah, I was 19.
Yeah, I was 16.
Yeah. And I'll tell you more about what I was doing during this period of time.
No.
In a couple of episodes. But so Kelly, what are your thoughts on the?
Yeah, on issue number 9. I mean, to me, this is a pretty straightforward issue. The scenes flow really well together. Like it goes along very swimmingly with these different character stories kind of coming together. I especially liked just kind of how everything was laid out because we really do start with Maze on a high, so we get more of a focus in with Midtown High and her friends, and that seemingly somehow collides with what Kane and Whedon's team are doing in Dark Devil with Shield, who is they're very shady right now. Something is very fishy going on with Shield. So this kind of, even though they weren't trying to get May involved, and ultimately May really didn't mean to get involved. Stuff just happens. So now Carnage is coming back, and we've got some major trouble. Nothing, like I said, nothing really to say here except this is a story that makes you want to keep turning the page and seeing more. Like none of these issues have a good stopping point until the end, but the end ends on a low note, so you want to keep going. We just really want to see how this unfolds. And of course, I wrote a question, which is, which Midtown student did Carnage take over?
Pause the video now and read the book. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, it's, but yeah, no, we'll obviously find out, but, I remember reading this the first time, and I didn't catch it until probably issue 10, where I started getting a super weak thing, because when they're calling out or it'll be the next issue, we'll talk about the next issue. I keep moving forward. It's my brain and how I know this story backwards and forwards, so I'm just running through it. So speaking of which, what are your thoughts before we just jump right in?
Yeah, so my thoughts on this this is a really, really good start. This like you say, this is a quintessential Spider-Girl story in that it seamlessly ties into the larger plot with what's going on, and it makes the world feel just that little smaller. The subtleties of how things are paced, like the scene with Kane and Earthshaker in the truck, just as Mayday is crossing the street. It's just really well done, and you sometimes see that like with like sitcoms, but this is a very serious story, and just the way everything kind of flowed in here.
Well, it starts innocent. That's the thing, and like there's one issue called innocent must die. We'll go into the full line, but yeah, no, I mean that's the thing is that like this starts off so innocently, like you said, it seems like a sitcom, seems like something on WB or UPN before everything hits the fan.
Side note, that's what CW used to be. They used to be two different networks before.
Well, it was WB and UPN. Yeah.
So, like I say, to me, the artwork is really great. There's not a lot of Spider-Girl parts in this issue, just where, May's swinging to go to school, and then when May shows up in costume, here. It's very much a Mayday story, setting it up. And, the focus being back on Midtown High. After, we've done, we've covered, a lot of these big earth-shattering things. It's really nice to come back and seamlessly come into a story where, the supporting cast is the focus. So that's my thoughts on this particular issue. Also, fun fact, George on Spider Jeopardy one year asked me a question asking me about Carnage, and I totally forgot about Contessa Valentina Allegro de Fontaine. And I got the question wrong, and I still, every time I've heard that Jeopardy question,
did you call out Elaine from Seinfeld? Because now it's correct.
No. I blanked that she was in the story.
Oh, well, that's fair too.
And it was funny because the way George asked it, it was very painfully clear that was the answer, because he had a lot of fun saying the full name. And yeah, so every time I see the full name, I think of that Jeopardy question. So, there you go. So that's a fun Spider-Man crawl. We had a lot of references to crawl space tonight.
I mean, it's all in good fun, and it all is for a good cause, because we want you guys to, especially while we're gone on our break, because we're not going to come back until October. You guys should definitely go check out that Tom DeFalco. I don't want to call it a roast, but it's probably going to be a roast.
It will be in good, lighthearted fun if it is a roast. So, all right. So we then pick up to issue number 10. Carnage is here on the cover, a definite homage to the Spider-Man Unlimited #1. Whenever Tom DeFalco wrote that Spider-Man Unlimited issue of Maximum Carnage. All right, so we pick up at outside of Midtown High, where some kids are doing the usual prank on the crosstown rivals. Of course, this is homecoming week, and they're starting to get ramped up for the big game. And anytime you have homecoming in America with football, you're going to have weird, dumb traditions that always happen. In this case, they're doing a prank where they're taking a dummy and burning it in effigy, dressed up as a Midtown High jock. And when suddenly Carnage shows up, and he wants to use real corpses. This is not a prank. It's real. Carnage is here, kids. So while it's clear that the symbiote wants to kill, there's some argumentativeness going on between the host in the symbiote and Carnage, the symbiote himself. So the host is in a bluish hue, and then Carnage is in a red hue. So if I'm talking about them going back and forth, if you're reading along with us, there's clearly two different people struggling to fight for control of the symbiote. So the person that is the person whom the symbiote has got control of very clearly does not want to kill anybody. Okay, so this gets us to our opening splash page with the SHIELD team and Spider-Girl looking for specimen 297. May is trying to get more information, but Val just keeps stonewalling her, saying it's classified and it's a need-to-know basis, doing the usual, stonewalling and tactics that they always do. So May suddenly gets a phone call from Davita, who informs May of what's been going on with Courtney. She is obviously heard of the situation, and they're at Cafe Indigo. So May's like, look, I'll be there as soon as I can. And, and so eventually, meanwhile, up top, we've got the police forming a perimeter when Peter shows up. And as Peter shows up, he's like, man, there's a bunch of government types around. Captain Ruiz is getting stonewalled by Maria Hill this time, with Agent Whedon kind of trailing behind her. And while Whedon is with her and his team's, he informs her that his team is still on the case underground, trying to find this what they don't realize is a SHIELD ops team. In the sewers, Dark Devil finds a clue, which Kane just thinks is wonderful. That clue particularly being a strand of webbing. So, meanwhile, May is swinging towards Cafe Indigo using a similar wonderful...
Did you mention she had received the phone call?
Yeah, I did on the... with the... Yeah, did it cut out when I...
I thought it was this issue.
Yeah.
Searching with them. Yeah, because she called, like, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. I don't know if I zoned out, but Davida called her because Courtney saw another girl that we know, but of course we also know that that's Moose's cousin.
Yes, yeah.
Issue
it's
100.
Oh yeah, I forgot that she was brought up in 100. That's right.
Uh-huh. I think 99 or 100, but like I feel like she was brought up prior.
Yeah, but this story is her first like on panel appearance where she actually showing up. So, I mentioned that Mayday got the call from Davida. So, so Mayday obviously is swinging towards Cafe Indigo. And when she arrives, May finds herself playing devil's advocate. Davida is totally like on the warpath.
No, she's not devil's advocate. She's being reasonable here.
Well, what I mean,
Davida is very anti-man right now for some reason.
Yeah, she's like that two-timing jerk,
She got burned somewhere, and she is on a warpath, and I love her for it because I feel, but it's hilarious.
I wonder if she didn't get a date to the homecoming dance. Headcanon.
Well, it's not. I actually don't think it's headcanon. I actually think it's in the story.
Is it?
I think so. I've got to double check.
All right. Anyway, so obviously, Courtney's kind of relaying what happened in the previous issue, and Davida is man-hating right now, but May is trying to be like, look, maybe we're reading into this, but meanwhile, there seems to be a red crimson figure outside of Cafe Indigo. Courtney is trying to remain calm and saying, look, obviously this is what she's thinking is going on. Suddenly, May's spider sense goes off and Carnage crashes in because there's my joke was Davita's totally on the warpath, but not as much of a warpath as Carnage. But that set up. Yeah. Okay. But so May is struggling to try to she realizes that Carnage is in between her and her backpack to change in the costume. Two jocks begin to attack, but they're unsuccessful. But it seems that Carnage knows who they are because he's calling them by name. And again, the Carnage and the host are arguing and saying, no, you can't hurt the guys. So May then grabs a latte and throws it at Carnage's face.
It was decaf, so it's fine.
Right. Oh yeah, it is decaf mocha latte. Which I like mocha lattes actually. I had one recently.
That's before decaf.
Yeah.
That's before decaf. Obviously, May has not gone to college yet and understands that caffeine is life.
Yeah. Boo to decaf. So, during this particular scenario, Carnage is like, look, she's the only one that can save us. And so Carnage then begins to attack just as May jumps out of the way. And somebody's like, whoa, Parker should have been totally juiced to make a jump like that. Oops. So, yeah. So it looks like Carnage is then going towards Courtney, and he's like, we are that, and there's more of them. And Courtney's like, no, you can't. And Carnage is like, stops himself and says, how can I expect you to help me when I can barely restrain myself? So then he ends up leaving. May is about to jump into action, but Davita stops her and is like, hey, you should leave this to the professionals and call the cops. So May starts to call the cops. Meanwhile, we're over in Brooklyn where we have Agent.
She doesn't call the cops. She gets a phone call.
Oh, that's right. That's right. She gets a phone call.
And actually, he didn't stop himself at Courtney. He was fighting and saw Courtney, and that's what gave the host almost the strength to go away. But he says it specifically about like, well, how can she, aka because they're trying to get to May, who they recognized when they saw, and they were like, when I can't restrain myself. I'm sorry. I just clarifying for audio listeners.
Yes, that are following along and getting really confused by my recap. So May got a phone call, and then we cut over to Brooklyn. We're back at Brooklyn where Agent Whedon is like, I always think of the guy from Princess Bride when I think of Agent Whedon. So when I see the word impossible. So obviously, like, Whedon can't believe that she would steal the specimen. Kane's like, finding her could be proven difficult. And Kane is using it as an excuse to like leave, and like leave specifically with Dark Devil. So Dark Devil kind of makes fun of Kane. He's like, real subtle, buddy. Like, have her on speed dial. But so meanwhile, 20 minutes later, we have conversation, the typical conversation with Dark Devil, Kane, and Mayday on the rooftop. What we've seen several different times, and Mayday kind of informs them of what the specimen actually is, that it's Carnage, and May starts learning about this. So we then cut over to Washington D.C., where we have the President of the United States speaking to a man that looks mysteriously, I don't know if it's a man. It looks like a man.
Well, it looks like a very bald man.
Yeah, it looks like a Lex Luthor type, or Jeff Bezos, if you will.
It is Jeffrey Bezos. Everyone get that song out of your head now.
Yeah, you're welcome. Dude, when I saw him with saw that meme of him in the robot, and like the straps were like crossed, I'm like, he literally is Lex trying to be Lex Luthor at this point.
But do you know what his spaceship looks like?
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the story.
We'll go into that for those that don't know. You can use Google.
That May uses.
Yes, there you go.
Technology is finally pretty much caught up now in this sliding time scale. There is a Wikipedia and a Google search in this. She now knows how to use the internet. It's great.
Exactly. So the President of the United States is talking to a man that looks mysteriously like the World Security Council. That is a not so subtle hint as to who the person might be. Anyway, so that's an MCU reference without even being an MCU reference.
It kind of is, actually.
So, he informs the president that, look, they're going to get the specimen back. The best agent's on the case. And we then cut to the next day where Mayday is, getting dressed and, surrounded by her floating heads of guilt as she goes down stairs. English is
in her free people tunic dress.
Yes.
And leggings. I'm just throwing that out there.
I was wondering if you were going to make the reference to as this specific outfit, because I am 99.99% sure that you have this.
I did not, because I don't have that tunic in red. I have it in purple and black.
Oh, okay. So obviously she's walking downstairs. Mary Jane and Peter are talking about Peter's perspective of the situation, about how he was annoyed that he ran into a bunch of federal agents last night. So he also informs May that they also hijacked the Cafe Indigo investigation. So May is wondering if she should tell him about Carnage. So she's like, no, I'm not going to ruin his day. Oh, Mayday. So
in in her defense, she doesn't realize how
This is true.
bad this is gonna get.
So then MJ's like, "Hey, you want to walk to school, or do you want us to drive?" And Mayday's like, "Wait, what?" She forgot that she had been offered the job. So of course, Mayday and MJ show up at the school, and Slattery is smiling, which the classic thought balloons in this scene are priceless. Slattery smiling. It's the end of the world as we know it. And then somebody thinks that MJ's hot. So MJ gets shown around by Slattery, and Davida and Courtney are like, whoa, somebody's worlds are colliding. And so May is still thinking about wondering if the new Carnage may be somebody she knows. Her mom's gonna be working at school. Could her life get any worse? Oh, May, you shouldn't have thought that. So we then cut to a figure outside of the Parker family homestead, but it's not a figure. It's a menacing figure because, well, it's Carnage. Peter is inside with Benji and having the easiest diaper change that he's ever had. So Peter's spider sense goes off, and even Benji looks a little confused. So Peter runs upstairs, and as he's running upstairs, Carnage crashes through, and Carnage is like, we don't want to intrude on your quality bonding time, but why don't you pass over the little baby? We then cut to the letters page, which we'll get to that in a minute. A few hours later, we have MJ and Mayday leaving school, and so MJ was asking how her day went, and then did she have to feel a lot of embarrassing questions. So, MJ hasn't, obviously taken the offer yet. And then they get to school or they get to the house, and they realize the house has been ransacked, and MJ is asking if she's getting any tingles. May runs upstairs, but then MJ starts, stops dead in her tracks, and we see in the final half splash page the words "Help me" scrawled on the above the fireplace, and it's
in blood.
Written in blood, which is a calling card back to Carnage's first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man. So, Kelly, with that long-winded recap, which I sincerely and profusely apologize for, give me your thoughts on this.
All right. So I mean, I always thought it was like really horrific and gut churning about "Help Me" being written in blood. It also at the time reminded me of, because there was this whole thing going on, I think a few years prior, with the unrated version of Batman Beyond Return of the Joker and the edited version, because there was this huge thing where basically Bruce Timm had to get everything colored, like recolored, for it to get a grade for a kids show, because they had written the ha-has in Bruce's Batcave, like when Joker comes in and roughs Bruce up. It's all in red originally, and WB was very concerned because it looked like blood. But I feel like both of this and that scene, when it's in red, it gives you that sense of dread and that like horrific suspense, because that does mean it's like, oh crap, this is serious. Like that is, someone is hurt. Someone's really hurt. So yeah, I mean, it's like I said, this is one of those moments where like it really does show you, okay, fun and games are over. This is not good. Like we said, May literally innocently thinks, oh, I'm not going to ruin his day about that. Like, shield's on it. It'll be taken care of. It'll be fine. If not, I'll go check it out later. But that's, making that mistake with something as deadly as Carnage can be fatal. And she's seeing this here. It just makes the stakes that much higher. And the villain, the villain's unhinged. Like Carnage is unhinged and willing to kill, although obviously the host is not so willing, which is literally the only saving grace here, is that the host is seriously unwilling to commit murder. But it sets the message really clear and in a gruesome way. And then obviously we know it is a student, but which student always comes to May to talk about their issues? Who sees her as their life guru? I wonder. I wonder. Y'all gotta think. But also, since you mentioned Billy Crystal, I now need Billy Crystal as Agent Whedon in Spider-Woman.
There you go.
If that doesn't happen, I'll cry. Since, especially because like Sony and MCU love using MC2 characters, at least in name only, but they love using them. But yeah, and I also, just because you mentioned like where somebody had one off gone, oh man, May's mom is hot. When did Stacy's mom come out? Was it 2007?
I'm looking it up right now. I know okay,
Well,
so
yeah.
yeah, let's see.
When did that come out? Because I'm just saying, if somebody wanted to change some lyrics to make it Mayday's mom.
2003.
Oh.
Yep.
So
Released
people were probably already changing the lyrics. That's kind of that's the embarrassment part. Is people were probably already singing it in English class. Someone wrote it as a poem in English class, and Slattery, who clearly was like having a conniption anyway.
Yep, it was third track of their studio album, and was released to radio as the album's first single on May 19th, 2003. So, thank you, the Googles.
Thank you, Google. But yeah, so you have any thoughts about this issue before I go in?
I've had some issues with pacing on other podcasts in the past. These two issues are so really well paced that it really goes along at a steady clip, and it's just like this slow, gradual build up. And every single one of these issues, it feels like you have this dun dun dun, or
I mean, I'll be honest, I hated the end of this and not having the next issue for like a whole month. It bugged me, and originally, because because we're now at the point where it's like I remember, like I could physically drive myself to go pick them up. So it's a thing, yeah. So it's like now we're getting to the point where it's like I'm inching away towards college once we get to the end of this. But
I love the subtleties of the cover, and we'll talk about that cover probably a little bit more next issue.
Well, to me, all the covers are great, but yeah, 11 is like one of my favorite covers. But yeah, which is the issue I'm going to dive into. But yeah, no, on this one, I just really, to me, that half splash page, seeing the Help Me in Blood, because for me, who really I only really knew Carnage from the cartoons or the video games, maybe a one-off comic here and there. Mm-hmm. So I actually didn't know that this was a reference to their first appearance. So to me, this is like, oh God, what did he do to Peter? What did he do to Benji?
Yeah.
And I have to wait a whole month before reading it, but you guys don't. Everybody, any newer reader didn't have to.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's my main thing, and I just want to mention that before I go in. But are you ready? You got anything else to say
about the next issue's cover? Is the pack of lies that that says one more day in the corner, and it said 9 of 2007.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a complete pack of lies. But
yeah, this is where we start literally getting our souls ripped out by Marvel.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. So Kelly's got the breakdown for issue 11.
Yes. Alrighty. So cover date is October 2007. On the shelf, August 8th, 2007. So literally, this is 15 years old. The bow breaks. We have where Carnage is holding baby Benji while its host is pleading not to eat the kid. Peter is beaten and tied up, like in the cover of this issue, is telling Carnage, and he's telling Carnage to let his son go, that he's really the one he wants. But no, according to Carnage, they need his daughter, the host saying she's needed to help, and Carnage, who can't quite control his host, adds in to eat her. Peter notices this issue, kind of notices that not they're not simpatico, and asks what's up with the different voices, which Carnage allows Peter a peek to what his host looks like. The readers, however, don't get too much of a peek, but you might be able to figure it out from the silhouette. So if you do read this issue, look at the silhouette. Carnage has put baby Benji in a pet carrier and tells Peter to tell them where to find Mayday or watch him slice up his baby boy. I will also mention, just if you were reading this for the first time, it was a huge sigh of relief because at least they're alive. I mean, you kind of knew that was going to happen, but you didn't know how bad until you saw this. Anyway, meanwhile, in Forest Hills, MJ is cleaning up the Help Me off the walls, and we see that Mary Jane is crumbling in her resolve to keep a brave face while Peter and Ben are missing. But she has to keep faith in her daughter that she'll find a way to save them and everything will be okay. But this is easier said than done, and it's hard for her. And this is a page that just tears at you and shows exactly the terror and pain Mary Jane goes through and the brave face she always puts on. But she trusts and loves her family and believes in her web slingers. It's just a thing I feel like I need to throw out there because it's a really good it's a good like momentary study on who Mary Jane is at her core. So she's a very strong character. So we finally see Mayday, seeing that she can't figure out why Carnage would take her dad and brother, as the only connection that there is Carnage was an old foe of Spider-Man. But the symbiote and the symbiote is just a specimen of the original because there are 300 more. And Cletus Cassidy is long gone. But whatever the case may be, May is swinging through the city like a madwoman searching for her family. She senses something, but sadly it's not Carnage, just Kane's crackpot team. They are looking for her since the last time since this time she's wanted for some questioning, and May really just doesn't have time for that. She dodges them just fine, but Maria's team that's hot on her trail is a little bit harder in those flying cars. We cut back to Carnage, where Carnage has Peter tied up, and he cuts Peter's throat lightly, just enough to bleed, but not like slashing it, telling Peter that he won't Peter's cries won't distract them from the baby. The host is apologetic, calling him Mr. Parker and asking for forgiveness. The selfless father situation reminds Carnage that he did make a promise to his host that he'll keep, and has to go run an errand. And he's going to bring Benji with him, even though the host doesn't think that's necessary. Peter, tied up in these unbreakable tendrils, is determined to break free and save his family. He can do no less. He is still Spider-Man after all. May is getting really angry and frustrated with all of this. She doesn't have time to be chased and questioned by Hill's men right now. Right now, the monster that has her family is her main focus. And why did Carnage even go after them in the first place? She breaks a chimney as the frustration overwhelms her thoughts. May breaks down for a bit, and she starts to think that she might not be smart enough to save her father and brother. She can't figure out why Carnage would go to them. She sits back and thinks when she first saw Carnage at Cafe Indigo, he was able to call out students by name. It was Wendell and Jose, right? Or Cordell and Jose.
Cordell.
And then he freaked when he saw Courtney. But wait, could it be? It has to be Moose, right? That would explain everything. May couldn't make the connection before, as she was thinking about Carnage, the symbiote, more than the potential host. She hopes she's wrong, but if her hunch is right, she knows exactly where to find them. As Peter keeps pushing his body to break free, he remembers. It's like he can hear Uncle Ben's voice saying, "Someday you'll understand what a blessing you've been to your Aunt May and me, Peter. There is nothing more important than your family. It's an awesome responsibility and incredible joy. A real husband and father embraces all of the burdens and thrives because of them. It can also be a source of strength because it forges bonds that can never be broken. This powerful statement fuels Peter to keep fighting to get free. These words are from a man who taught him everything about courage, power, responsibility, and family. May's hunch was right. She finds Carnage, and of course, now Maria's flying cars aren't on her tail. Figures. They're like nowhere to be found. She goes in to subdue Carnage the old-fashioned way, but Carnage has Benji. This throws May off because now she needs to save her brother, and Carnage has plans for him. The host, Moose, begs Carnage to let Spider-Girl take Benji back to his parents, and Carnage tries to correct Moose with parent. Spider-Girl asks what they did to Mr. Parker. Carnage tries to lie, but Moose won't let him. Spider-Girl begs Moose to fight back with his symbiote, that he can't let this creature turn him into a murderer. The way Spider-Girl is speaking to Moose makes him think Spider-Girl might know him, and she confirms she does. She knows who he is, who he's dating, and that his father is in the hospital that they're on the roof of. But Moose tells her that he is dying, and Carnage comes in claiming that they are the only one that can save him. Peter finally breaks free, pushing himself beyond his pain, beyond his endurance. The only thoughts are of his family. And that's what brings him strength. And I'm just throwing that out there again. Anyway, the Midtown Hospital has alarms blaring. Nurses seem to be evacuating with patients because of Carnage, and Spider-Girl is not far behind them. Spider-Girl is trying her best to tell people to get out, but she gets thrown by Carnage into the room where Moose's dad is. Carnage thinks Spider-Girl lacks focus since she seems to be having a hard time prioritizing anyone to save. So they're going to make it easy for her. She can save the baby while he holds Benji out the window, or she can save the medical staff. And she needs to choose quickly because he just drops the baby before she can react. So May reacts instinctively. She goes after her baby brother while taking the civilians out the window with her. May is kicking herself because she reacted without a plan, something that even Carnage respected because it seemed crazy. She just knows she needs to keep Benji from going splat and find a way to catch the nurses. She swings Benji up in the air, giving her enough time to catch the nurses and get them safely down so she can rappel herself back up to grab her brother, almost like using her webs like a slingshot. And she managed to grab him and get him back to the hospital roof. And while she's at first relieved she saved her brother, something is very, very wrong. Carnage is up on the roof, claiming Spider-Girl should have listened to Uncle Carnage. He told her he had big plans for the baby, and we see that Benji is now a Carnage mini-me, Kid Carnage. To be continued. And shout out to Zach asking if May will find out the father of Dark Devil. And Mr. Tom DeFalco said yes, so I just want to put that on our recording. Matt also had a letter, and Derek, Andrew, and James. So shout out to you guys.
Yes, and I forgot to do the shout outs for the other two issues. Issue 9 has letters from Michael Jung, who was a common letter writer back then, Jim Collins, and friend of the show, Joshua Lambertoni, wrote a letter in that one. And then
we got Betty asking for Betty.
Which it's John.
He didn't get a yes. So.
And this is like before ASM Classics when the Betty's jokes were a meme at this point. Okay. This is 2 years before the Clone Saga Chronicles podcast was started. So that tells you. And then in the last issue, we have Aaron, aka Frogoat, and John from our first official episode.
The message boards.
On the message boards, yep. And Joe, as well as Sergio. So that's the letter writers on those two issues. Yes, I asked specifically, will May ever truly learn of her connection to Kane and Dark Devil? Yes. Although it's been hinted that we might see a revelation of sorts of May possibly revealing her secret to Davida, may we see more of Felicity, who already knows? Yes. And finally, I know that we have 6 other titles of Peter Parker running around at Marvel, but do you think we'll get to hear Pete's side of all the stuff that happened in this issue? And the issue being the Mary Jane issue. It says probably not, because there are so many other titles that feature Pete's point of view. So he basically turned around and used my Tom, you old.
I just want to say he made a promise he couldn't keep here.
Yes. Interestingly enough, it says Zach Joyner, Amarillo, Texas, because I was living on my own going to college during the time of this being published. So yes, I'm gonna have to get another. Pete, I have multiple letters in Spider-Girl. Spider-Man. It's not 9 of 9 like Pete has, but you know. Anyway.
I mean, Pete's made himself an enemy.
Let's not even get into that. That's a
anyway. What are your thoughts about this issue?
Oh man, what an intense issue! And I remember seeing this cover and going, "Oh man, like this is such a great cover." It just really the dichotomy of the stakes and Peter and Benji and Carnage, you know, having them hostage. Yes, is it a trope? Sure, you might argue that, but like it's so really well done here, and like you know, the reveal of Moose, if you didn't see it coming, and I'll remember at the time, I was like, oh man, it's Moose, and like it didn't register with me until later when I went back and reread it. I'm like, oh, there's the hints, but like, oh yeah, it's Moose, and it was such a great reveal. Such a big deal. And so for me, this was such a really good, fantastically paced issue. And it, like you said with the last one, it leaves you wanting more. This was the period of time I remember just highly anticipating going to the comic shop, because at this point I was going to the comic shop and just getting so ready to pick up that next issue of Amazing Spider-Girl. Like, the entire team was firing on all cylinders. Even the colors in this issue, like the scene in particular.
It's Gotham City, or Gotham Studios.
Yeah, let me double check.
I believe I did not write everybody's stuff.
Gotham Studios was doing the colors. Like this splash page of her like frantically, and for those that are on the audio, like I'm specifically highlighting on the point where she's like frantically, you know, trying to find things. The colors are great. The line work is great. Just, it looks very modern, but
yeah.
you know, it's very classic, and it was really, really well done. One of my favorites. Ron was like killing it at this point, and I think he'd finally kind of settled into the groove of the subtle changes he made, like with the costume, and you can really, really tell in the story. It just felt like that Tom and Ron and Sal were having a ball doing this. So that's the last I'll say. The ads are fun, but I'll save that towards the end.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the only thing I think I really want to like touch on that you didn't was just the thing that Uncle Ben said that Peter remembered, because of what was going on during the time of this was going down at Marvel. Obviously, I'm not going to say that this was some kind of pushback, but clearly, like, there was a large push on, well, Peter can't be a husband and a father and carry a title. It's not realistic. It's not, you know, something people could relate to. But the thing is what makes Peter, you know, my thing is like, and I've talked about this. I talked about this on Crawl Space and Spider News. I am not somebody that necessarily thinks one way or the other, black or white. I think you can have both stories very clearly. You know, it just kind of depends on what's going on. But the thing is, you know, and I understand why it happened. I understand what information they were being told. I understand the synergy and the marketing and the blah, 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 that most hardcore fans don't care about because you're going to read it anyway. But I understand where everything was coming from. The thing, though, is what makes Peter Peter? What has influenced him? What is his driving force? And, you know, this, what's being told to him, like what he is remembering, saying like, you know, basically Uncle Ben saying like, you know, family is so important. Family, you know, that's the ultimate responsibility. Like you'll never, you know, you don't understand how much joy you've brought into our lives, you know, and how, you know, and I can't wait to see the person you're going to become.
Yeah.
As he's thinking about doing everything he can to save his son, to get out and get back to his family. He knows how Mary Jane's, you know, he knows Mary Jane's thoughts at this point. He knows what she's thinking. He knows exactly, because she has been in this before. And you could see that, like, after years and years and years of going through this, how much this is killing her. But she's not going to ever break down and quit something else that was a slap in the face during that time. That's the thing that hurt me the most, was like, how do you mischaracterize what makes Mary Jane the character we all know and love? And that right there, that little scene that like gut wrenches you and tears at your heart, that shows you her. She's going to keep a brave face, and she's going to keep the faith, and she's going to keep going because that she knows that that's what she needs to do to be supportive. Like, you know, my thing is, it's just, these are all these things, these core things that we know these characters to be, that we've seen throughout all of these stories since the very, very beginning. The main thing about creating new stories with something like this, like it's definitely like a pass the torch, pass the baton storytelling game. You don't just reverse everything and erase all of that history and expect that, you know, everything's going to be okay, because you've just taken away everything that makes them them. And this is kind of the story that, like, almost it really does set the tone of, no, MJ's still MJ, Peter's still Peter. But here's how, even here right now, look at how this, almost how like this honors those characters and the character study that had to go in here to really just show these little scenes. Because this is also, again, this is an issue about May and May's story. These are side characters, but there's still so much depth and warmth and, like I said, humanity. Like, these feel like people, real people with flaws, and you know what I mean? Like, they're not, I'm not sitting here putting them on a pedestal. I'm just saying that they feel like the characters that we know.
Yeah, and for those that don't, and I should have mentioned this during the history part, but this is very clearly, we're getting towards One More Day era. The whole 3 years prior with Quesada talking about the Spider-Man marriage and being just against it and everything like that is very, very much like everybody knew about it at this point. Mm-hmm. And so the rumors about One More Day that were being thrown around and everything like that were very much at a fever pitch as these issues. And One More Day was supposed to come out throughout the entire month of September of 2007, but didn't, because Quesada couldn't meet those deadlines. So, fun fact: this is also during the era of which I accidentally helped co-create the final issue of Peter David's run of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So, because that was a question I asked on Crawlspace, and about, will Jonah and Peter ever have a confrontation? And Peter David liked the idea so much that that's what he ran with for his final arc. So One day I'm getting it signed. I have 2 copies. I have a copy that's my reader copy, and that will be my sign. The other one will be the copy I get signed, and I'll eventually get it framed. And it'll be back here somewhere. So,
All right. So I also want to mention, as I stated in the breakdown, no Vinkman. Carnage says that he can save him, and it's after Moose says, my dad is dying in the hospital. Then there's a dash dash. Then Carnage says, and I'm the only one who can save him. But that's not
yeah.
obviously. So again, no, Moose did not know this.
And this is also a plot point that DeFalco introduced.
Well, about the cancer, yeah, but that's the thing, is that Moose doesn't know this, and May only finds it going through the wiki, which we'll talk about in the next issue. But what I'm saying, though, is just because I read the panel over and over again, because I originally did write that Moose said that, and it's not. It's 2 different colors.
Yes, so definitely great use of the way they did the speech bubbles too. So
yes, yeah.
All right. And now with that, any final? Or are we just going to issue 12?
I'm good. Are you good?
I am great.
All right. So issue 12. So cover date is showing November 2007. It was on the shelf September 12th, 2007. Only the innocent must die, which is what I mentioned earlier. All right. So while May is reeling from this situation with, I start calling him KC, Kid Carnage, and just trying to keep Kid Carnage away from her face, Carnage and Moose are arguing because Moose cannot let this toddler just kill someone. Like, he can't have it on his conscience. Carnage does agree that he can't just let Kid Carnage have all the fun. So he tries to skewer Spider-Girl, but Moose calls out, and Spider-Girl quickly grabs Casey and dodges the tendrils. Though this leaves her vulnerable for Kid Carnage to bite her on the shoulder. Ouch. May knows that Benji's body is being used against his will, as is Moose's. She needs to find a way to destroy the symbiote without harming the people she loves. Back in Forest Hills, Peter, now all bandaged up, doing the best impression he can of my mother when I don't answer, and is refusing to stop calling until May answers, because he needs to know she's safe, but he also needs to make sure she understands that Carnage has Benji. Mary Jane, however, has a hunch that the reason May can't answer her phone is because she already knows. May is able to web up KC and keep him subdued for a bit, while Carnage screams out a play on a Meryl Streep quote from 1988's A Cry in the Dark. Just say, I mean, it's true.
Yeah, there's good quips by Carnage in this, especially the Spider-Girl theme song.
Yeah. May remembers from her Google search that the wiki on Carnage told her that the symbiote is vulnerable to fire and sonics. Lucky for her, she knows exactly where to find a sonic weapon. She just wishes she had gotten the nerve to ask Carnage about her dad, but she knows they would have only lied and twisted any fear she had to their advantage. Carnage follows her, singing a murder-flavored theme song for Spider-Girl, and now here comes the flying cars and Whedon's team. Great. Just what May needs right now, especially
they're always fashionably late.
Always unfashionably late. Especially because it's clear these guys don't know what they're getting themselves into. The SHIELD agent in the flying car gets quickly ejected when Carnage slashes the car in half, and Spider-Girl rescues him. So then, he can immediately try to arrest her. Nice. Super appreciative here. This distraction, however, means Kid Carnage can break himself free, which he does. Spider-Girl kicks him back, and the agent starts running as Carnage is multiplying. And Moose helps make sure that the agent starts running thinking that Carnage has multiplied. And Moose makes sure Carnage missed a bit from hitting Spider-Girl, but Carnage does manage to graze her back and push her down. The host and the symbiote are still very much at odds. Thankfully, this keeps Carnage a bit off their game, and so Whedon's finest come in, mostly because no one can mess with Spider-Girl but them. It's their unspoken rule. They also know about Morbin time, apparently, because they say it. Shouldn't your catchphrase be "It's Carnage time"? But apparently they know about Morbin time and how catchy it is with the kids. So they tell Carnage their catchphrase should be "It's Carnage time." So there's that. Let's not give Sony any more ideas there.
Woody Harrelson saying it's Carnage time.
I'm fine with that. But anyway, Carnage and Kid Carnage make pretty quick work of the reformed gang, and the Spider-Girl knows she needs to do something before Carnage kills, and remembers Carnage was being studied for a possible cancer cure. She quickly tells Muse, which Moose then agrees to Carnage that if they can save his father, he'll agree to become one, which really excites Carnage. Carnage then takes Casey and they clear out as they're rushing back to the hospital. This at least gives May a bit of breathing space to get the sonic weapon. As May gets up, hurting everywhere, she finally answers her phone, and there's a lovely little page where Killer Watt is asking for an ambulance. Says, "Get an ambulance, dude." Anyway, finally getting to speak to her dad, who was on the way to look for her, I'm guessing, because he's in a cab. He agrees to help May get the sonic weapon from Midtown South, and he's going to meet her at the hospital. May kicks herself a bit, not asking Killer Watt where Dark Devil and Kane went off to, because she really doesn't know where they are, and she's kind of like, why isn't my gang here? She kind of does need the help here. We cut to Dark Devil and Kane breaking into a S.H.I.E.L.D. safe house where Contessa is at, and I wrote that in all caps, and I don't know why. I'm going to start calling her Elaine after this. But for anyone who isn't super privy, like we said earlier, to Marvel lore but knows the MCU, you might know this character looking a lot like Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So, again, when you think of Contessa, just picture Elaine from Seinfeld. And honestly, it's a really good character point. Almost same personality. Anyway, so Kane and Contessa talk hypothetically, of course. If S.H.I.E.L.D. had meant for Whedon's team to lose Specimen 927, it might also be because the UN kind of wants all 300 specimens destroyed, and the U.S. didn't want to. But so maybe if it was stolen, it would force the U.S. to destroy it, but something went wrong. And the operation was compromised by the unexpected appearance of our friendly neighborhood Spider-Girl. They were on her turf. I mean, they should have realized that. But in fact, Dark Devil realized that. So anyway, at the hospital, Courtney is trying to see Mr. Mansfield, but after earlier incidents, he can't receive visitors right now. Courtney bumps into Moose's cousin, and they finally get to chat, but it's cut a little short by Carnage busting in. Carnage gets really cringe with Courtney, trying to force her into a kiss, but Spider-Girl comes in just in the nick of time to punch Carnage in the face and get them away from Courtney. Peter gets to the hospital and wonders where May would have put Benji if she didn't come back home with him, while he ran to get the reverb armor. He knows May wouldn't put Benji in danger. Way to lay that reader secondhand guilt on us here. And he wonders how, he became his daughter's sidekick. And how did she even know that this stuff was in the evidence locker anyway? Which, see issue number 2. Thank you, Molly. So Peter gets the suit on and gets to the floor where he sees Kid Carnage, and things start to click for Mr. P. And he freezes. May quickly gets in between Benji and Peter. May realizes her dad froze because of Benji. He doesn't want to hurt him, so May grabs the weapon and does it instead, innocently believing that this is just kind of going to work out. She knows this is a risk, but it might be the only way to get that symbiote off Benji. She has to take this risk and blast him, but she knows if she's wrong, she'll never forgive herself. Benji immediately starts crying, but the symbiote that held him hostage is destroyed. Carnage gets upset and breaks from Moose, who says they can't worry about anything but saving his father. Because Moose is like, dude, what the heck? I offered you my body and you're mad over this. Carnage obviously gets caught in his lie here and fesses up. He doesn't save people. He wasn't going to save anybody. May runs off after them while Peter runs to Ben. As Peter calls out to him, he doesn't seem to hear, and we cut to blood dripping out the baby's ears. Carnage and Moose make it to Mr. Manfield's room, arguing as they go. Thankfully, the arguing is a good distraction for Spider-Girl to blast them with the sonic blaster, and May starts to feel really bad for making this choice to kill the symbiote. Is she doing this just because she can? Or is it because it's the greater good? As Moose asks her why she wouldn't let him save his father, she tries to tell him the obvious truth. Carnage wouldn't have saved him, just would have made him into another monster. Moose tells Spider-Girl that if his father dies, then it'll be because of her, and he hates her for that. Spider-Girl dejectedly walks away and finds a doctor checking on Benji, saying he doesn't know if Ben's hearing loss will be permanent, stunning May in her tracks. Maria Hill is hiding out in the hallway, advising that the specimen has been neutralized, exactly as Fury wanted, it seems, and it is classic looking Fury. Hopefully now this can help. Yeah, Hasselhoff. Hopefully now this can help Congress approve to neutralize the other 299 specimens. Fury tells Maria that he's relieved things ended so well for them. They don't get many happily ever afters in this business. As we see Spider-Girl hanging her head low and walking away. The end for now. And shout out to Andrew, Aaron, Michael, and this guy that does interviews for DC's social media, for Tony, who in this thing asked for an anthology book. And honestly, I think we need that, actually.
Yes.
We need more MCU stories.
Well, he really loves the DeFalco Fantastic Four run because of its just craziness, and so that miniseries was right up his alley. So he was talking specifically about the Fantastic Five miniseries, which we covered last episode. So thank you, Walter, for the shine. Oh dear, go the shine from Zach's head. As I was reading along, thanks, Walter. You're really trying to make me drop an F-bomb at this point. I know.
That's been the goal all day.
Oh, buddy. I love you. Walter's one of my favorite humans. As long as he doesn't bring up Pink K. So.
Oh, well, now he's gonna do it.
Yeah, no. I set him up on that one. So.
Anyway, so what are your thoughts on this issue?
Oh my gosh. What a heartbreaking issue this is. This issue hits so much differently than it did in 2007, because when you're a parent and you're watching your child have to make choices, it is the worst nightmare that you can have. And every parent's nightmare is seeing their little baby, something happen to that little baby. And so Peter freezing connects with me on a way that it didn't when I read this the first time. It just is so, the artwork is so well done. This 4-part story is so well paced, and in an era of which was decompression was the name of the game. This is not decompressed whatsoever. This was a story that was just brilliantly told. And it's heartbreaking on the sense of anybody that's watched a loved one, sorry Walter, go through a cancer fight and is seeing them struggle. You want to do anything you can to help them in that fight, and it's a big deal for Moose that he's willing to trust a homicidal symbiote to help save his dad.
Well, I mean, Moose is selfless. I mean, that's the thing, is even when he was a bully because he believed that they were making fun of his friends, which of course were other jocks. But like the thing is that, even think about there's that one page in the annual where it's just where it's like a day with Moose or whatever, and it's like just his face. Yeah. And the thing is Moose is so reactionary. He is so, everything is about other people. He is completely selfless. And so here, he sees his dad and he doesn't have a way to help. He doesn't have a way to fix it. And that is all he wants to do. It is consuming his thoughts. It's something even Courtney brought back of like when she saw him and, now his cousin, but she didn't know. It wasn't the other girl that bothered her so bad.
Mm-hmm.
It was, she realized how she thought she was being selfish, which she wasn't, but she thought she was being so selfish because she forgot how just exactly what Moose is going through. She knew, but she didn't know the extent. Because again, Moose will hide anything to not be vulnerable.
The arc that you see with Moose, and we've talked about it on and off throughout the show's run, getting a story where he is such a central protagonist, he's an antagonist in this, makes it more heartbreaking for longtime fans seeing how Moose, um, you know, has evolved from those earliest days. It really shows the level, like you say, of how selfless he truly is. And Walter had a comment. He said, "It's a fine. It is one of the more real storylines. It's what my son would do. He would do anything to cure me, and has said as much. Being real in a story, it makes it a better story."
I mean, because that's essentially like, I mean, the thing is Moose essentially, once he realizes, oh, wait, this thing that latched onto me, you know what? It wants a body. It wants to basically turn me into a murderer and do all this chaos. Fine, let's go. Like, I will do this. I will make that deal with the devil if it means my father can be cured. Now, of course, Moose is not realizing Carnage is just going to take over, and create more Carnages, because that's what Carnage does.
Right.
But if there's any possible chance, he's going to take it. And, I understand that. And it's also, like you said, with the dichotomy of like Peter freezing, realizing that Benji is being taken over by Carnage. And he realizes like instantly, if he blasts this at him, this could hurt him. It could hurt his baby. And, versus like May was just like, yeah, let it go, like do it, because she's just thinking like, okay, this is something to subdue it. It'll just like go away. Like her brain, I love her to death, but like after everything she's been through, she's still underestimating things that can happen, and it's almost wild. But I think it's because she had hope. She was hopeful. And she's never really dealt with, she's had some lasting consequences, but like she's never had to make such a hard choice before. And the thing is it's funny because it's very much almost like 15-year-old Peter and not realizing some of the choices he made and those lasting consequences. Because she's just naive. She doesn't know. And, we'll find out later, obviously nobody's angry at her. Like this was a let it stay on Benji or kill it. Like there wasn't a lot of choices you can do. Like, what are you going to do? Set a baby on fire? Like you can't. Unfortunately, this was a hard choice. She did the best she could. But it didn't even register to her. Like she saw her brother was fine. She ran off, and she already gets that one blow of like her number one Spider-Girl fan, her best friend, somebody, again, like I said, he looks up to May like a life coach, like a life guru. Trust everything about May and about Spider-Girl until this point. And he loses a hero because he feels like, are you kidding me? This was like my one shot.
Yeah.
Like you just destroyed that. This is blood on your hands now, because he's angry. He doesn't
His
he's
anger
not seeing the bigger picture.
His anger is
Yeah.
very realistic because
Oh
when
yeah.
you're suffering with grief, like Moose is suffering with, you will do whatever it takes, and you will behave in a completely irrational way. Um, he says what I appreciate. Walter says what I appreciate about this arc is that it was all about what we do for our family, what length we go to for them, and how we lose our sense of reason for him or for them sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll also highlight this comment because it echoes something that I was going to say with Venkman. The ending is very depressing, but at the same time, it's classic Spidey.
Oh yeah.
Even up until the little tiny May walking off is purely like from
I
Amazing
mean,
Fan.
it's the Parker luck. Like you're not, kind of like how where Fury is saying, "Oh yeah, it's a win for us, boys. Like this is a happy ending." It's not. Like just because it's a happy ending for you doesn't mean it's a happy ending for all. And
Fury's that always takes into account collateral damage.
yeah, like it's a I mean, and the thing is too, like, we're gonna be dealing with this for a while. And in a lot of people's fan fiction, Benji deals with this forever. But it's the thing is this is something that, like, I mean, this weighs on Mayday for a while. She really did not think that this was going to happen, but it's the name of the game. I mean, literally, it was stop a murderous alien from, making your brother a murderer at like not even 2 years old, or have him lose his hearing. Not that she realized the consequences of that, but
Or he lost his life. I mean,
yeah.
there's easily could have been caught in the crossfire with Carnage too. It's obviously this is not the last time we'll see a baby Carnage because we see Kid Carnage with Normie.
Well, it's a little different because that was like God, what was it? It was something.
Red Goblin Carnage.
Yeah, but it has a name. And two, again, this is a baby. This is like maybe right at 1 year old, a little bit over, maybe, like if we want to just play with the sliding time scale a bit. This is a baby versus Normie was what? Considered 12, I think.
His
10,
age,
10 or 12. Yeah, it slides.
So much.
Which I will also admit to that too, because he was a little bit older. There's some side stories there with the Red Goblin situation where, Norman as Red Goblin is telling Normie to bring someone home and kill them, because it's Carnage talking.
Yeah.
And Normie, which I always thought was the best thing, because it almost like bridged the gap between the Normie we know in this world and 616, where he was like, brought the kid into the office and was like, go out the window. Like, if you don't go out the window, I'm going to have to kill you. So go out the window. And like gave this kid an out, even though he was still trying to find a way, to honor his grandfather. Mm-hmm. Like he was torn in that. And this is him fighting the symbiote too. So it's, like I said, it's been a whole thing. And Walter,
just trolling me in the comments.
Yes. Yeah, his name is Goblin Child in the thing, yes, with an E.
Goblin Child.
Thanks.
So,
who came up with that name?
I think you did. Am I pointing in the right direction?
No, I did not.
Who? Oh, was that Neil?
No, this isn't the official name, the official sidekick name.
Right.
And Red Goblin. And I got some problems with that E because we're not at Ren Fair. Anyway,
if you see the comment, you'll know exactly who wrote that particular story. All right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Really?
So do you have any final thoughts?
No, great arc. This is just a barn burner of an arc. I am so looking forward to talking about the repercussions of this arc, but yeah. So, but great. It's a great story, and I highly recommend it to everybody. So, your final thoughts there, Kelly?
Really, I think the only thing we didn't super touch on, but we did in the beginning, was just how this felt like a horror thriller with Carnage. Because like when you think of it from especially May's point of view, like this thing literally took over her brother against her brother's will, and in the end, you know, in the end, it's, I guess, like, in the end, like there was still like you said, collateral damage. Things aren't the same, and it's horrific and sad. But we're gonna keep chugging along because that's what the Parkers do.
Yeah. This is also the first time we saw Maria Hill in the 982 universe. And it was at this point we started seeing more of the more modern characters starting to show up. And and people freaking out in the comments that Ron's in watching us live. This was the first time we started seeing some of the more modern characters, which kind of foreshadows into the next episode. So, Kelly, what's going to happen in our next episode? Kind of explain too that we're taking a break for the month of September.
Yes. Yeah. So we're taking
birthday.
Well, yeah, there is my birthday. There's just also Dragon Con and a lot of things. So we're going to take a break for the month of September, just so that way everyone can handle everything and not lose their hair and marbles and go insane. But when we do come back in October, we are going to go through issues 13 through 16. May gets dealt some more blows in Goblin's game as Hobgoblin and Fabian return to their Kingpin games. We get our first appearance of Anya, aka Aranya, and she is back to being Aranya in the 616. No more Spider Girl. There is now only one Spider Girl, and that's our girl. But I point at myself, but it's Mayday, not me. But in we finally. It's not me. But in appearance of Anya, aka Aranya, in 982, Normie and Brenda come back from their honeymoon just in time to celebrate the 10 years of Spider-Girl in issue 15, which I know it's been about 24 years now. We need a new anniversary issue, I think. Maybe. Right?
Ron?
Anyway.
Just saying.
I mean, we do. But we also get a one-issue story with a foe that could prove to be problematic named Dead Spot. So we're in for a lot packed in the next 4 issues as we work ourselves halfway through Amazing Spider-Girl. Oh my God, we are almost halfway through. So we'll announce our next recording date. I figure probably last week of September. We'll set a date and then we'll let you guys know. So check our socials and I'll try to get everything posted.
Absolutely. And so speaking of, I'll list off those socials. That's a great way to segue into our wrapping.
I know, it's like I thought about it or something.
Kelly, on point tonight. Yes. All right. So that leads us to the end of the episode. Thank you guys for watching. Those that watched us, those of you that listened to us, thank you for listening. Be sure to, and as 50 says, the Spider-Girl anniversary celebration never ends if you never stop reading and doing fan art. So that's true.
Of course.
You can find us on Facebook at Spidey Dude Network, as well as Instagram, Twitter at Spidey Dude Radio and at Make Mine Mayday, YouTube.com/Spidey Dude Radio Network. If you subscribe, I've been trying to create these episodes a little further out, so that way you get told when we have new episodes going out. So, and of course, you can follow us on Instagram at Spidey Dude Network and at KMcDaniel28. You can follow Kelly there. And then TikTok at Make My Mayday and at Spidey Dude Network. You can find us on the TikToks as well. So find us on all the social medias. Of course, one last time, we're going to thank our patrons at patreon.com/Spidey Dude Network. Vakeman, Scott, Jurgen, Greg, Phoenician, Kale, Georgia, and Cindy. Thank you for your support of the Spidey Dude Radio Network. And be sure to check out tomorrow on Spidey-Dude.com. Those of you guys that are watching live, we'll have the latest episode of Voices from the Eyrie, a Gargoyles podcast. It was already available, though, to patrons last week. So if you want to get that advanced notice of those new episodes of Voices from the Eyrie a week early, you can certainly check it out there. We got Books of X that's going to be coming soon, and before the end of the month, we will have another Patreon special of Spidey Dude Experience, so check us out there. So there'll be some things to tide you over while we're on break with Make Mine Mayday, but be sure to check us out here on the Spidey Dude Radio Network. And thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time here on Make Mine Mayday, where we're covering issues 13 through 16 of Amazing Spider-Girl. Thanks, guys. See you next time.